Spawning on the bottom left, we've got Horus the Holy, and his opponent up top, NightSlayer. Alright, both these players a little bit newer to the scene. NightSlayer did a fantastic job in the Preseason Cup preliminaries. Managed to come out in place number 1. So let's see what these players have in store for this. Horus starting off with a 4-farm Lizard opener. I like to see the Toads and the Cams here. I'm curious how much better they are on this patch. Ooh, a 4-farm double even. And NightSlayer is not scouting. I wonder if he went AFK or something. That's what it looks like. This is a very, very bad matchup for that to be the case. There we go. Now he's back. Okay, I was wondering if there was a desync or something because maybe this was on the PTR and I'm on live, but I believe Eel said that there should not be any desync issues because it's the same version of the game. Yeah, and unfortunately, NightSlayer grabbing a drink or answering a phone call or whatever it was in the early game here, really going to get punished for it. You know, 9 times out of 10 when your opponent just opens up 8 farms, like, okay, you got to go AFK at the early game, you'll be fine, but this was kind of like a stars aligning type of situation, you know. This is a relatively bigger map, so you might not have expected that kind of rush to begin with, but, you know, not scouting in the early game and your opponent going 4-farm double feels bad, man. So NightSlayer did take some significant damage there. He lost 3 farms. He's technically not out yet. I mean, maybe if NightSlayer can delay the game, you know, maybe get up to some defensive skunks or something like that, can possibly come back into this one. But right now, it's looking fantastic for Horus the Holy. And I might be doing a little bit of fast forwarding, everybody. Not a whole lot, just a bit. Because I would like to cover all 4 of these series if I can. You know, and all things considered, for NightSlayer losing 3 pigs, like, he doesn't look like he's super far behind here. And again, these sorts of differences, you know, if you find yourself in a game like this where you take a lot of damage in the early game, the best thing that you can try to do is delay the game, right? If you're up against a really smart opponent, they might be able to put together the required comp in order to come in and beat you down. But stuff like skunks on defense, you know, maybe an MG or something like that, can really help you just kind of stabilize. And if NightSlayer just kind of takes it easy and just says, all right, let's calm down for a little bit, let's drag this game out, that difference in food value between the two will matter less and less. And we see Horus is not messing around here. He doesn't want NightSlayer to get the opportunity to lick his wounds here. NightSlayer trying to get into some chameleons. A pretty good call in this situation against the lizards on defense, I suppose, with the extra pigs healing and that sort of thing. But now Horus has the high ground here. And he's continuing to build more and more lizards right here on the proxy. This is very all-in from Horus. If NightSlayer can hold on, then maybe Horus is in a bad spot. But the chameleon was not on the front lines at the very start of that. Horus is able to come in. Doesn't take a super cost-effective trade, but kills the pig in the process. And that's the really, really important thing. Especially when you've got a lead like this, you know. If you can take an engagement and end up like killing a Warren, killing a pig, or something like that. But NightSlayer's got the double cam here. He's coming in now. One of them was a little bit hurt, but the chameleon doing a decent job of tanking on the front line. If NightSlayer can keep this chameleon alive, that's pretty reasonable for him. And Horus is going to have to give this position up. Now keep in mind, NightSlayer's only on 7 farms here. Really needs to get back to 8 farms. There he goes, queuing that up. And just needs to play defense, keep up the scouting. Horus is just massing lizards here. So if NightSlayer can manage to get up to maybe an extra set of cams or some skunks here, you know, some units with a lot of HP to help deal with this, he might be okay. What's up, NightSlayer? Good to see you in chat, man. We got Tiki, we got Tuesday. What's up, everybody? And now we hit the 5-minute mark, so both the economies are starting to go into the dumps. And you know what? All things considered, you know, NightSlayer's playing a really good game here. He's managed to wiggle back in to a decent economy. He's kind of stabilizing for the moment. But what's Horus's next move? Now, I haven't actually got a chance to really comment on the deck selections here, but Horus went for triple tier 3. And that is very, very greedy. You know, if he can get to that late game, he's kind of got this super deathball comp, or maybe he's selected those various tier 3s to be able to kind of have the Swiss Army knife of higher tech units, you know, whichever one for the right situation. The NightSlayer's getting up to that double cam, which is going to be kind of difficult for these lizards to engage on if he just tries to slam right in. But the benefit of the lizards is that they can try to do these flank attack kind of maneuvers. And the main base of NightSlayer is not super open. Oh, does NightSlayer see this move out? He does. And he's trying to take this engagement. He's confident. Horus does not want to fight. You know, NightSlayer's basically got this very similar amounts of tier 1 plus all the chameleons here. And NightSlayer is able to just dominate all of the lizards in that fight, keeping... Honestly, I think he lost like 1 or 2 squirrels there and 2 chameleons for all the lizards of Horus. Now NightSlayer's in good shape. He's moving in. Horus did actually a very greedy transition into the mid-game here, going full 8 farms on the second base. NightSlayer's trying to come in and punish that, but all of his chameleons are no longer here on the front line. They've all gone down. But NightSlayer's getting the damage and he was looking for, and all of a sudden, NightSlayer will have the better economy in this match. Horus is in a lot of trouble. Okay, NightSlayer's pushing in, and I think this is going to be a victory, so well done from NightSlayer here. A bit of a gamble on Horus' side on the deck selection front, I feel like. You know, Horus didn't have a lot of tools for the early game, and 4 chameleons versus a bunch of lizards when you got tier 1 backing it up, it's kind of difficult for the lizards there. And NightSlayer will take game number 1. I think the big mistake from Horus was just fully saturating that second base. That's a really dangerous thing to do. And with NightSlayer just putting a couple farms on that second base while continuing to develop the army, he had a nice opportunity to go in there and strike. So let's get into match number 2 here. Alright, spawning on the top left, we've got Horus the Holy, and his opponent to the right, NightSlayer907. Looks like NightSlayer is rocking this same composition here. Meanwhile, Horus has changed things up pretty drastically, to be honest. Completely different deck this time around. I like the mines. That's kind of interesting. When chameleons were really meta a few patches ago, what people started figuring out to do against them would be place the mines like right next to your warrens. You know, like the 3 tiles, like put your warrens down, put the mines right in front. That way when the chameleons came in to attack, the mines would blow up on them. Maybe that's the thought process for Horus, or maybe he's trying to get out the ferrets and like bait the opponent into the mines. I think the mines have a little bit of a bad rap nowadays. Maybe they're a little bit underutilized due to the stealth reveal. You typically see that in a lot of competitive games, you know. If something gets like a slight nerf, everybody's like, oh, it's terrible now, you know what I mean? So I feel like mines maybe have been a victim of that. I can't remember, though. I think mines got a relatively significant nerf, though, right? Because they got hit by both the stealth reveal and I think a damage reduction. I'd have to verify that, but we got 8 farm doubles from both sides here. NightSlayer already getting into the second base. It's a pretty decent map for this sort of thing. Oh, I'm sorry. NightSlayer went for an 8 farm single into the second base. Yeah, that makes more sense. And is he going to go ahead and grab some skunks maybe? No, going to go for the chameleons again. That's kind of interesting. I feel like chameleons are better on the offense, and skunks are better on the defense. You know what I mean? So with this like gristmill opening, I would think I'd rather see some quick skunks, but you never know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm just full of air. And we got the double skunk opening from Horus here. So the double tier 2 is not going to get punished. Sometimes when your opponent tries to go for a double tier 2 this quickly, you can try to do some sort of early attack. But NightSlayer has invested into economy. So no early attack is coming in. And this is actually really cool. Cam Snake versus Double Skunk. I was just complaining about Double Skunk in unit discussion. So I'm personally interested in this, because I'm curious what the right response to it is. I think the right response definitely involves snakes. Airlu was thinking maybe Cam Skunk versus Double Skunk would be able to do it, but Double Skunk seems to be very meta right now. Like in my opinion, the two things that kind of have the target on their back as like the mainstream good meta builds and decks right now are the Double Skunk openers and the Snake Owl ultra late game. And those are definitely solid ways to play. But I think that's what guys like me are kind of scratching our heads like, okay, what do you do about that? How do you crack that nut? And Horus with a very, very tier 2 heavy opener here. Getting into some second base economy, also going up to double Falcon. Meanwhile, NightSlayer is kind of being a little bit more on the economy, not slacking off on his own tier 2 though, is getting into his third tier 2 Warren. Can only watch the stream on source resolution, I believe. Oh yeah, that is weird. Normally my stream has various resolution options, yeah, but it's only giving the 1440p option. I apologize for that. Hopefully that's not too big of a deal for most of the viewers out there. I will investigate that for my next stream. So we've got a proper late game on our hands, and did Horus scout the tier 3? He did. NightSlayer was gonna get into a quick bore, but changes it up, instead goes for a lot more tier 2. And this is like a very, very greedy macro game, and I think it makes a lot of sense for this map. Oh, look at this. Horus trying to rally these Falcons over here to snipe that tier 3 Warren that no longer exists. But this could be huge. If NightSlayer can actually catch all those Falcons, that would be enormous. And we just hit the 5-minute mark here. Both players on second base, full saturation. Both players getting into a lot of tier 2. And here comes this Falcon harassment. I think it did manage to kill a Warren, and then the second one that it was threatening got sold. Yeah, sorry about that, Take Aim. I don't know why that is the issue, unfortunately. Or why that is the case, I should say. I haven't really changed anything, and most of the time I get all the various quality options. Alright, so we're getting into some big fat tier 2 armies here. Horus actually teching in a couple of those ferrets. Just gonna use those to harass a little bit. Yeah, I love all these mines. Trying to bait NightSlayer to coming in for the attack. And Horus does have a superior Falcon count right now. However, lots of skunks on the ground without a lot of tier 1 from either side. Those skunks won't be getting their full utilization. Nice little pickup from Horus. I'm curious if NightSlayer knows about the minefield. Alright, NightSlayer's gonna move in and start getting hit by a lot of these mines. Horus still has so many Falcons in the air. NightSlayer is running out of units that can actually shoot up. But good target fire, a lot of those Falcons falling down, and NightSlayer able to retreat, keeping one of his snakes at 1 HP right there. Yeah, with the lack of tier 1 from both sides, I would like to see, you know, both sides really sell down to maybe 2 skunks. But again, the 4 skunks just kind of makes sense. I think in general right now that's a pretty solid opening. Alright, so this is going to be all about the third base. And for Horus, does have this third base over here at about the 8 o'clock, but there's no real fourth base option available for him. NightSlayer, however, can continue to build his economy into the late game. So Horus really needs to be thinking about how he's going to seal the deal on this match. Not necessarily right now, but within the next few minutes. You know, Horus doesn't really want this game to get to the point where they're thinking about fourth bases. Oh, and NightSlayer's looking to be sneaky with these chameleons. Gonna run into a mine, gonna run into this campfire. Nice job. Horus really utilizing these ferrets quite effectively this match. You know, just to apply some light pressure, and even getting some nice shots there. You know, weakening the army a little bit before the big engagement. This is such a rough spot to be in, man. Both these... Now, what's interesting about these armies is that since they're very, very low on tier 1, this fight is very dangerous. Like, whoever wins this big engagement might just snowball to the victory of the match, because it's going to take these tier 2 so long to reproduce, and not only that, unless you are very, very fast right after the big engagement to sell off warrens, you're not going to be able to afford to be, you know, producing out of all of these tier 2 structures, which is a very big problem. So oh man, catching these falcons here is huge for Horus, and Horus has this high ground. He's continuing to shell with the ferrets. NightSlayer is going to try to take this engagement, but his chameleons here are just doing nothing. His skunk's not really getting a whole lot of work done. Yeah, and the chameleons and the double skunks just aren't really what the doctor ordered here. You know, those types of compositions are much better off dealing with big unit counts on the ground. You know, dealing with a lot of tier 1 and whatnot, for example. NightSlayer sold something off. Looked like some falcons. Then again, Horus is starting to get into a few more squirrels here. And the cams might end up just kind of tanking shots for the falcons. That was so much damage onto these chameleons here. You can see how low HP they are already after stepping on the mines, after taking those ferret hits. And Horus is going to clean this up. He's going to start pushing back. NightSlayer, again, he does not have a lot of tier 1 warrens. So you can see all of his tier 2 warrens are in the red right now. Very, very difficult when you're this heavy on tier 2 to quickly rebake an army. And I think Horus is just going to win from here. We're going to have a series on our hands going into the next match 1-1. Also, throughout all this, Horus did get that third base up and running, so really nice play here from Horus. Let's keep it going. Game number 3. Spotting in the bottom left, we've got Horus the Holy. And his opponent to the top right, NightSlayer907. Alright, Horus constantly changing up the decks here. Really cool to see, man. I totally understand the logic behind both players. You know, NightSlayer saying, hey, this is the deck I'm good with. This is what I think is kind of the holy grail of decks for the meta. You know, capable of, like, dealing with everything quite nicely. And meanwhile, Horus is like, I'm going to keep changing it up, man. You know? First game he went Mass Lizard. Second game he got a really big Falcon composition with a couple ferrets to poke and prod in the mines. And this time around, he's got Lizard. I actually really like Horus's deck a lot, to be honest. He's got Lizard, Skunk, Snake, which can do a phenomenal job in the early game. And obviously you can get into that Owl Snake in the late game, but can even fit the turret artillery into the composition to just be very, very oppressive if he gets the positional advantage. And this map does favor Horus quite a bit. You know, NightSlayer's got this second base. He's got a decent natural. But, you know, if Horus is allowed to, could probably set up like a turret and an artillery cannon here. NightSlayer trying to poke around with these squirrels, find a way to get in against the turret defense from the rush here. Really wants to get this pig. Oh my gosh, it's so close. He's gonna get it. Nice job from NightSlayer. Love to see this pre-8 farm aggression. So nice little victory to start things off here for NightSlayer. But not the end of the world for Horus. Again, Horus's deck doesn't mind expanding to the late game, but we have seen, and as we saw in the preseason cup, you know, NightSlayer did defeat that Owl Snake late game with Falcon Boar quite nicely. So maybe we'll get into to see how his deck can kind of deal with that. Maybe the game won't quite last that long. It's a little bit early to tell so far. But yeah, this map is a little bit rough for NightSlayer. Could, in theory, go for this 12 o'clock base as a third. You know, Horus only has 3 bases available. So in theory, we could get to like 3 base versus 3 base, but I don't like that because Horus has lizards. It could probably pretty easily go like harass that 12 o'clock base. So I think if you're NightSlayer, you want to go for some sort of 2 base build. And he's definitely got the deck for it. You know, he's got the Cavalcade of Tier 2 here. And, ooh, Horus looking for an opening, gonna swing around with the lizards. Nice positioning on these squirrels, though. Gonna force these lizards out. And Horus is gonna come through the front, but I don't think this is gonna work. Yeah, smart from Horus to change his mind right there. So only losing 1 lizard to take that opportunity to try to maybe snipe a pig or 2. Yeah, I think NightSlayer's got a solid deck for a 2 base push, you know. We'll see how he wants to go about it. Getting into full saturation, maybe like a half saturation, board timing. This artillery cannon is getting up for Horus, and it's in a very nice position. It essentially protects all 3 bases. And I think the defensive structures like this just pair so nicely with the Owl Snake. Because the Owl Snake player wants to get into that late game, right? And when you put up a defense like this, what you're trying to do is tell your opponent, like, hey man, let's play a macro game. You're not going to want to attack into this artillery cannon. Let's just wait a few minutes and see how our army comps do against each other. And that's exactly what the Owl Snake wants. They want to get into that big Owl Snake comp, and they're hoping that will let them win the game. Gets a scout on that 3rd base there. And NightSlayer taking this 12 o'clock, but Horus is going to scout it. And again, this is rough for NightSlayer, as Horus is the player with the lizards. He's going to have a lot more presence on the map. It's not a very big risk at all for Horus to try to move the lizards up to attack that base. So I think what NightSlayer really needs to do if he wants to get into 3 bases here is kind of clear out these cabins. Yeah, we can see the lizards already going up there to deny that. But I think NightSlayer needs to clear out these cabins and then position his army around, like, here, you know, so he's kind of close to either side. I think that's about the best he can do. He's going to try to catch these lizards. Only one of them goes down, though, and is NightSlayer going to go for it underneath this artillery cannon? He's going to back off for now. Yeah, and Horus getting really defensive here, trying to cover all the bases. I don't think those turrets were really necessary in that position. I think the artillery actually covers that. Artillery has just got such crazy range. NightSlayer is saturating up faster here. He's already got the full base economy saturation on the 2nd. Now, does NightSlayer try again on this 3rd base? Or does he go for a boar? Or maybe mass falcons? Like, he's got to do something soon. Yeah, I think it's the boar. I think that's the right call. Maybe you can get that boar up front and tank, you know, some of the artillery shots, get that structure crit onto the artillery, knock it out without losing most of your army, and maybe you can push through. But honestly, I think it depends on if Horus tries to get into owls from here. Like, he's got the double skunk, he's got the snakes, his defense is rock solid. But if Horus does something like try to go for, like, double owl, and then NightSlayer can attack while these owls are, like, paid for but not on the field yet, maybe he's got a chance. And that looks like exactly what's going to happen. So Horus is going to try to get into double owl here. So this is the timing for NightSlayer. His boar will be out around the same time that Horus has invested 720 food into the owls, but before the owls are actually there. NightSlayer does not know the owls are on the way, but it could probably assume, you know, if you're doing things like building an artillery cannon and defense and skunks and snakes, like that's probably where you're going to go for the late game. But is NightSlayer's army going to be big enough? He's got a lot of falcons here. Horus doesn't have a whole lot of tier 1 on the ground. Oh, I'm hyped. This is actually going to be really cool. Alright, here's the boar. So this is the chance. NightSlayer needs to push in here and get it done. The owls are almost out. NightSlayer needs to go right now. Start this engagement. Clear out most of Horus's army before the owls actually get the chance to show up. He's leading with this boar. It is going to allow Horus to get a few stacks of poison on the boar, but he's going to slam through this artillery cannon. This boar will go down, but it got the job done. Very smartly for Horus, though. Horus did not commit any actual economy to that base right there. So although NightSlayer has busted through, the farming base for Horus is okay right now. But the bigger problem is, you know, this owl's got nothing to support it. And yeah, owls are really strong, especially when you have 2 of them. But they need backup. They're not going to get the job done just by themselves. And NightSlayer very patiently coming in here, knocking out all these warrens. Now it's going to be difficult for Horus to re-rally an army. He's got these 2 owls here, but there's so many falcons from NightSlayer. Now, does NightSlayer continue to push, or does he go back? I think it's smart to go back. Sell off certain things, like the boar, maybe a falcon warren or something like that. Reproduce what you can. I think that attack was successful, but Horus is still alive. However, NightSlayer's got a really decent economy to deal with what Horus has got. He's trying to get into that double skunk right now. To help make those mice null and void. But Horus still has a good economy. Still has a few units, but I think NightSlayer's army is better right now. I think the question is, does he move in or does he wait for the skunks? It looks like he wants to move in. He does have those cams on the ground to help tank against the mice. And the trick here for NightSlayer is to keep pushing. You know, over time, those free mice will rack up a ton of value. But not right here, right now. The mice have been chewed through. One of the owls go down. The second owl should be out of the game here shortly. This looks like a victory for NightSlayer here. Horus is out of steam. Yeah, with that second owl falling, there's nothing left. Nice timing there from NightSlayer. He didn't quite know that his opponent was going into double owl, but he kind of pieced it together. And came out with a solid push, just like right at the right time to deal with that before it really got going. That puts us on match number 4. Opponent at the bottom left, we've got Horus the Holy. His opponent at the top right, NightSlayer. Alright, Horus changing it up again, this time around going for Balloon Fox. You know what? Fox actually is pretty good against what NightSlayer has been showing so far. You know, NightSlayer hasn't been showing any kind of defense. He's got chameleons, he's got snakes, and those kinds of units can be a thorn in the Fox's side, but aren't necessarily just like straight counters. Let's see if there's any more aggression in these early game situations. Looks like we're going to get up to 8 farms this time. Nope, NightSlayer is going to go for some sneakiness. Selling into a 5-farm double here. And the map is definitely good for that. It's a pretty short rush distance. Which can make a big difference, right? Because every 10 seconds is another tier 1 coming out. Ooh, I actually really like the double tier 1. It's a shame that he sold that down. Because a double tier 1 would have allowed him to have 2 versus 1 or 4 versus 2. It most likely would have came down to like 6 versus 2 tier 1, and you can kill a pig with that. But no, NightSlayer just trying to get Horus to overreact. Not actually committing to this attack. And I think that does make sense when you have squirrels. You know, maybe I would have liked the 5-farm double better if it was lizards, because that extra movement speed can really help you get to the enemy's base before they have enough units to defend. I think for a rush like that, you want to be at least like 2 to 3 tier 1 above your opponent, you know? I think you can make it work with 2. Like, if you come in with 3 lizards and they have 1 squirrel, I think you kill a pig. Pretty sure. Mass lizards here. From Horus, meanwhile, NightSlayer getting into a quick chameleon. And NightSlayer does have a few extra lizards onto the tier 1 count, but now that the numbers are a little bit larger, that difference doesn't matter so much. So Horus cannot actually dive into this. NightSlayer looks like he wants to go for a squirrel camp. Now, maybe Horus can dive in and get this Warren. Yeah, nicely done there. Doesn't lose too many lizards either. And really that was for 2 reasons. It was, I mean, mainly it was the short rush distance of the map more than anything else. But it was also because the NightSlayer went into the tier 2 and the tier 2 wasn't quite done. But I think on most maps, the tier 2 would have been done by the time that additional like mass tier 1 harassment got to your base. It's just such a short rush distance here. Sometimes you really got to factor that kind of thing into it. So NightSlayer going up to 4 camps, which I think is a pretty good response to Mass Lizard. Let's see how it works out here. And the fact that Horus is also going into this second base before NightSlayer, so NightSlayer's army is going to have a little bit more umph. He's going to have his tier 2 out faster. And Horus is getting into tier 2 now by the looks of it. Oh, I thought he was about to. Oh, I think he's waiting for the scout to leave. There he... Oh, actually going for a fox. If he can get away with that, it would absolutely be huge. But he needs like almost 2 minutes for that fox to get here. NightSlayer is probably going to move out when he gets these 4 cams. And I think he's going to move out right now because that last chameleon's blocked. And he's like, screw it, I'm not going to wait that long. So he's going to move in. He's got 3 chameleons up here on the front to help deal with these lizards. Oh, if he can keep those cams alive, absolutely slaughters those lizards. Keeps 1 chameleon alive here. Oh man, I was like, does the pig actually kill it though? Alright, Horus sells the fox. I don't know if that was the right... Well, I think he's just worried about the follow-up attack. NightSlayer selling down one of the chameleons there. And again, he's going to try to get into the double cam. And I like this a lot. You know, having quite a bit of tier 1 and then double cam against lizards seems pretty decent. Horus going to try to get into those snakes, though. Try to target those chameleons down with the poison stacks. NightSlayer's putting on some aggression, but not going to hard commit. I think he's just wanting to wait for that double chameleon. Even starting to get into some falcons here. It's kind of interesting with the falcons. Typically, falcons are kind of bad against this many lizards, but, you know, I mean, if your front line is strong enough and the lizards are busy dealing with the squirrels, dealing with the chameleons, those falcons can help on the backside. And I'm curious if NightSlayer is just going to swing once he gets up to the double cam. He's almost got it here. He's got the better economy. This looks like NightSlayer's game to lose. After that first big 3 chameleon attack, Horus just lost so much there. And here we go. NightSlayer's moving out. He knows if he can deny this base again, that's basically GG. The 5-minute mark is long past gone. And Horus is thinking he can't attack this army, wants to go for the base race, but NightSlayer, moving his units over, wants to deny that opportunity from Horus. But Horus might be bobbing and weaving. No, he's back in the corner, trying to sneak out of here. And he's going to take this engagement. No, he's going to back out. Yeah, he's just trying to buy time, but I think ultimately NightSlayer will clean this up. Horus is losing a ton of lizards trying to generate this run by. And I think like 12 lizards are enough to kill a fully saturated farm. Typically, like they can survive through the pig damage and get it done. Ooh, NightSlayer needs to be a bit careful with his commander, getting a lot of poison stacks, but those snakes just got annihilated immediately. Oh, NightSlayer could just win the game, but no, he really wants to make sure Horus does not steal this out from under him with the lizard run by, but that should be it, ladies and gentlemen. It looks like NightSlayer will take this one 3-1, as Horus has got nothing left, starving out here. Is going to have to tap or be eliminated from this match here shortly.